Today you're going to be multiplying binomials again with a slightly different focus. The focus is the essential question, and that's what happens when you square a binomial. So think about that as we go through some of these special cases where you can use the same methods as before to multiply your binomials. All right, I want you to not write and just think and see if you can figure out what a shortcut might be when we multiply things. And what we're looking at is when the numbers match, but one is positive and one is negative. Let's see what happens. And I want you to maybe finish this sentence after you see my pattern. Right? If I take my first terms, I get 4x squared. Outside terms, negative 6x. Inside, positive 6x. And last gives me a negative 9. When you combine like terms in the middle, you get 4x squared subtract 9. All right, look for a pattern or notice something. I'm going to do it again with the different examples. First terms would be 9x squared. My outside terms is negative 12x. My inside terms is positive 12x. And my last is negative 16. When you combine like terms, you're left with 9x squared subtract 16. So pause the video and see if you can finish this sentence. When the numbers match with one positive and one negative, then the middle terms cancel out. And that could be a piece of your summary. So let's look at a few examples and maybe try them, all right? I'd like you to try these on your own, so pause and see what happens, see if you can get the correct answer. Or maybe even develop some shortcuts where you can skip a line of work or so, that's fine too. I'm gonna go through everything meticulously. So 9x squared, that's my first. My outside is 15x. My inside is subtract 15x. And my last subtract 25. Some of you might be able to just say, well, I see that that's going to be 9x squared subtract 25. But for the sake of going through it, make sure that you're not missing anything. 4x squared outside is 8x. Inside is plus 8x. And again, those are going to cancel out. My last is subtract 16. So check your work. Now I want you to think about the idea of what it means when something is squared. So we're getting into that essential question, the thing that I think is the most difficult from this lesson. Squared, right, literally means that it's the thing times itself. So 3 squared we could say is 3 times 3. Many of you would just jump to the answer of 9. But that brings us to the fact that x squared is going to be an x times x, right? Nobody really writes it like that, though we write it as x squared. So if it's the thing times itself, if we're squaring a binomial, then the first step that you want to do is write it times itself. All right? This is your key concept for today, is that if you see a binomial squared, you're going to rewrite it first. That way, you're not going to miss out on any terms. You can go through and do your first and your outside, your inside, and your last. Okay. So we need to rewrite it before we can do anything. So first, rewrite the problem as 2 sets of parentheses. All right. I would put this in your notes and pause the video so you have a chance to do that. Maybe see if you can rewrite these before I go ahead and solve them. But first you want to rewrite the problem. So 2x subtract 5 is 2x subtract 5. If I go through now, I can do my first inside, outside, last to make sure I'm not missing anything. 4x squared, outside minus 10x, inside another minus 10x, and my last is plus 25. So when I combine like terms, I get 4x squared minus 20x plus 25. So there's not really a great shortcut, but you really want to make sure that you rewrite the problem. Some of you might see a pattern or a nice way to know the answer without writing it all out, but I'm not going to show that. I'm just going to keep going with the first outside, inside, last, because that works every single time. So let's rewrite it. We have 3x plus 2 times 3x plus 2. My first is 9x squared. My outside is 6x. My inside is another 6x. And my last is 4. Again, there are some patterns with this, but you can really only start to see them after you've done quite a few problems. So check your work, see if you got them correct. Okay. So some people think that a plus b squared is the same as a squared plus b squared. And pause, and this is a higher level thinking. If you could come up with a counterexample, that means a reason that's not true, that kind of proves that it's false. Higher level thinking. So accept the challenge and try it. Otherwise, one thing that you could do is just show how you would actually solve it, right? A plus b times a plus b. We go ahead and go first. That's a squared, all right? Outside plus ab, inside plus, and I'm going to write the a first. Ba is the same as ab, and then the last, right? If you simply try to square the first and the last term, you are missing this middle ab term, okay? So don't forget about the middle, and make sure that you rewrite it first and distribute. To summarize, when the numbers match, but one is positive and one is negative, the middle terms cancel out. And when a binomial is squared, first rewrite as two sets